Well, good morning. I'm off to a late start this morning. Perhaps we could start with just a few breaths. Welcome to Thoughtzak, a day in the life of a parroter. If you're new to this, remember, there's nothing here that you must listen to. Thoughtzak is kind of background. Thoughtzak is more about your thoughts than about mine. The rhythms of my thoughts may influence your thoughts, though perhaps not. That's the nature of the zak, the zacking of the thoughts, in a similar way to the zacking of music. Music, as horrible as it is from an artistic standpoint, has neurological effects. And because of the nature of it, because it's soft and it's in the background, and because you don't really think of it as something you're going to sit and listen to, it has an effect that, well, it only has an effect insofar as you welcome that effect, or you allow it in. Music runs the risk of becoming something else if you find yourself hearing something and then being bothered by it, or finding yourself repeating endlessly some tune that you think, why am I repeating this frickin' tune? And I would say Thoughtzak. Well, Thoughtzak is a lot more idiosyncratic, and it's a lot less even. It's not meant to have an effect on you one way or the other. It's just what it is. It's the thoughts of the parroter, the Thoughtzaker. Parroting is the means by which we produce Thoughtzak. So all it is what the parroter, the Thoughtzaker, is thinking. And that actually can be very intense. It can be loud. But because it kind of goes on and on and on, hey, it's hours and hours a day, all day long. 25 ate. What did the 25 eat is the question. No. The reality is it's not 24/7 either. It's what it is, whatever each of us chooses to put out. And you happen to be on my channel, the Marcel Thoughtzak channel. And as always, it's a come and go as you please communal experience. Drift in, drift out. Turn it off if perhaps I'm screaming at my child, which, well, I've gotten a lot better. And parroting has helped with that. Parroting is such a powerful tool for becoming more aware of who we really are. It's a process. And acceptance of who we are is part of that process. Not necessarily, not thinking it's, not going, oh, it doesn't matter. Well, it may very well matter that I talk too much, boss people around, get very hung up on minor details. These are issues. These are target areas for habit enhancement, which is another term for growth. Growth at in whatever aspect of our lives, whether it's practical, becoming more practical in the way we do things. Perhaps it's something more of a spiritual growth, interpersonal, how we interact with others. If we can recognize that we are perhaps shutting off people by talking too much, Or, I mean, that's me. I am good with examples of myself, but for any example I give that is at one end of a spectrum or off to the center, say off to one side of center, or a real middle ground, then of course there are people, and sometimes it could be ourselves. Like sometimes I'm, say, overbearing, I'm getting too involved, and I shut people down because I'm too involved with them, too aggressive. And then at other times I don't turn on in the first place, and I stay away. I tend to be more the one who I just go out there and engage. And when I err, it tends to be in that direction. Some people err in the other direction. And as with all things in life, we're looking for balance. Balance which allows us to go in one direction or another, but return to a grounded and central place from which we can then go and do our next thing. We don't want to be so off in one direction, even if there's some very good advantages to it. For example, a person who, let's just think of somebody that we all know. Mitt Romney. This man has spent the last year of his life, or more really, but very, substantial amount of time addressing the requirements of the particular challenge that he set for himself, which is an enormous challenge. And whatever we think of this man in terms of, of all sorts of things, we must give him credit for the tenacity, various things. But I wanted to use the word flexibility. Many of us see him as somebody who we wonder what is his real position on things, especially in the light of how he did what he believed was necessary. And actually, I think he was right. If in terms of getting the Republican nomination, he had to present himself as an extremist, because there are people in that party who say that you must be absolute and right, right in the sense that we are right in the right-wing sense. And of course, and really the right-wing sense is not really any different from an extreme left-wing sense. Just different flavors of the same idea, that we are right, other people are wrong, and it's all about us getting power so that we can impose our will, and that will solve the problems. That was what was presented to the German people in the 1930s. And it was done in a very effective manner. At first, it was done in a legal, democratic manner. They lied through their teeth, but hey, isn't that the environment in which Mitt Romney had to work? He had to lie. And we accept it because we say, okay, we're going to vote for one of the candidates that gets through this process. And therefore, we expect them to lie because we know there's no way, well, certainly with the Republican Party, a man who actually has experience and a record of doing things that are fairly moderate. Not always. I know some people from Massachusetts who really did not like some of the things he did. They thought he was not a good person for some of the things he did. But the record is pretty clear that, at least in many areas, he did work. He was the governor of a state which was one of the most liberal states in the country, and he managed to have a reputation in Massachusetts as actually a somewhat conservative, who works within the reality of the state. And he did some things that seemed to have worked. So, anyway, getting back to the reason why I brought this up was that he has spent all this time addressing a very specific set, and especially during the primaries, becoming this image of a right-wing extremist, or somebody who at least tolerates it and supports that. Because if he didn't act as if he was the leader of that group that had the choice of, had control over whether he was going to win or not, he just wouldn't have won. So now, maybe I'm going to talk to you, Mr. Romney, actually. I'm going to call you Mr. Romney, because I have respect for you. I know that you've done some things that I have a feeling you yourself feel you went too far, except maybe you had to. And so now you are in a transition period, because it didn't bring you to where you expected to go. On the other hand, sir, I believe that the Lord is on your side in terms of the outcome of this election, because he freed you from the shackles that would have inevitably been placed upon you by people such as, well, that man who was behind the whisper campaign in 2007 or 8 to have this rumor that John McCain had an illegitimate black child. You think about that kind of behavior should not be tolerated, and yet this man, with his 2 super PACs, Crossroads and Crossroads GPS, that man was able to raise over $200 million. Who is supporting this guy? There are clearly a lot of people with deep pockets supporting a man who goes around starting whisper campaigns against a man such as John McCain. A man who, I happen to feel that he would have been a mess as president. I mean, his choice of his running mate proved that he just wasn't, he was a little wacky. And, I wouldn't make a good president either. And I've had some respect for John McCain. And I think the Republican Party sucked his soul out from under him by doing what they did to Romney. This is the Republican Party the 2012 presidential election was the Republican Party's to lose, because there was so much disappointment with Obama that if the Republicans had put forth a person who they hadn't themselves sullied, I think they would have had the White House. But the Republican Party has been taken over by haters, absolutists, ideologues, people who say this must be a Christian country and say that Mormonism is not a Christian religion. Look, it's not my place to comment on the theological distinctions, But a religion is what the people who follow it say it is. And that is what this country is based on. And the Mormon religion is officially called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which means, by definition, whether you think they're devil worshippers or not, they are a Christian religion. Because they've said they are Christian. They are followers. They are the Church of Jesus Christ. And how could anybody come out in public and say, we shouldn't vote for this man because he's not a Christian? I mean, first of all, that idea, you don't vote for somebody because they're not a Christian? This is America. This is not the Vatican. This is not England under Mary and Elizabeth, when first it was, you are not a Christian because you're a Protestant, versus you are not a Christian because you're Catholic, and people killing each other over that. That is not. We are not 16th century England. We are not 2012 Iran, or a place like Pakistan, where there is an increasing call for Islamic rule and Islamic purism. Purity. The Islamists, as opposed to the Muslims or the Islamic people, the Islamists are the ones saying, we are right. The government should be our religion, it shouldn't be Sunni, it should be Shia. I mean, it goes on and on. Well, it's bad enough it's happening over there. There are people that are trying to have that happen right here in America. And it's partly because of that you, Mitt Romney, lost. This was not specifically about you. It was about this party. And I believe that the Lord has delivered you, sir. And now you have proven your ability to be focused, persistent, flexible. You're not a perfect human being. There's probably a lot in your past. My sense is some of the stuff you did with Bain, especially the earlier years, maybe it's time for you to say, sometimes people do things that later they realize they could have done it in a better way. And maybe that's part of your challenge, sir, is to now, and your opportunity, because the Lord has ordained that you will not spend 18 hours a day responding to the BS-ness of running the government. Sure, there's lots of business to be done in running the government, but in our system, there's so much BS-ness. And you, sir, you don't have to do it. You've got means, financial means. You've got a network. You've got resources. There's really nothing saying that you cannot be a citizen, leader. But there's nothing saying any of us can't be that. It's just that you, sir, have spent time demonstrating to the world, to the whole world, that you're a man of substance. Even if you change your mind, even if you could be accused of not having a political backbone, in terms of political issues, you're for, the kind of healthcare system that Massachusetts had, then you're out to run totally against it, and your attitudes about allowing other people's religious ideas to govern the control of their bodies, But though, hot button issues are meant to divide. And I don't think that this is the time that this country needs another person who's going to say, I'm going to lead us towards greater gun control or less gun control. Or I'm going to lead us towards greater restrictions on abortion versus fewer. Those are hot button issues that have been intentionally milked by those who want to divide us. We don't need that. You have your opinion and you live your life that has to do with when life begins and what you would do yourself or what you would counsel your friends or your relatives to do if somebody winds up with an unwanted pregnancy. Your beliefs, you as a citizen, you have every right, responsibility, especially towards, say, people close to you. If they come to you for guidance, you have your convictions. And we all have those. We don't need another leader to lead us down the road toward more division. We need leaders who can say, look, let's figure out what we have to do, and let's not get too hung up. Because we get in all sorts of trouble. You say something like, what did you say? You said corporations are people, my friend. And, well, that was an unfortunate way of saying it. But I believe I know what you meant. You didn't mean it in a legal sense, even though there is a legal, corporations. There are some people that are legal that are trying to make it more and more that way, and there does need to be a line. Corporations may have certain rights as if they were people, but they don't have all human rights. And they also have responsibilities. There is an issue. Can you put a corporation in jail for doing wrong things? Well, that's if you can't do that, then you can't say corporations have the same rights as people because they don't have the same responsibilities. They can't be punished in any meaningful way. A corporation doesn't care if it gets dissolved. People care if they wind up spending 20 years in jail because they have just terribly defrauded people out of, by selling them mortgages that they know they couldn't pay. I mean, there are some bad people who are running free that I'm talking about. No, I'm pretty confident. I don't know what's in your mind, sir, but I just have a feeling that what you meant by that is that that corporations are made up of people that figure out how to structure it, people who figure out how to make it work and actually make it work, and the people get rewarded or not rewarded based on how well the whole corporate enterprise works. And in that sense, thinking about corporations as an extension of people or an embodiment of people or being related to people, I believe that's what you meant. And that's my alarm to say goodbye for now.